All right, so moving right along, we got our server team here, and just as he pointed out, their motto is rock solid. And so they're Chimera. There's also people from Phoenix in this group as well, which are a couple of our teams. But their motto is to make sure, server dictates reality in an online game. So where we may have crashes on the client here and there that come and go, which are also very important, and performance on the client is very important. If the server goes down, it affects thousands and thousands of people, and so we make sure that those things can perform. And especially with an action MMO, it's really important that this team, be top notch. And I believe we have one of the best teams in the business, only by virtue of the work that they've been able to do on this project. In fact, we had a guy posting in our beta forums that was talking about how great his experience was, and at the end he was like, "And I've been playing from Germany the whole time. I'm glad you guys worked out the whole action." And I was honestly surprised that he could actually play and enjoy the game from Germany. So that was a testament to these guys. They made the internet better. As we walk around, you'll see a couple other teams. This is our combat.
Much better than when I
over
was
here.
a kid.
Those guys are working on combat, and they've been doing that for a long time. Mark Halad, who I don't think he's in here right now, has done quite a bit of work on making the combat really tuned and nice, and so has the team, so they're doing a good job. And again, if I'm moving too fast for you, the Mustache Club. Everybody asks, what is the Mustache Club? So somebody on our team got a great idea that as we were pushing towards beta earlier in the year, that we would all grow mustaches until we actually got beta approved. And that seemed like a good idea at the time, until like 4 or 5 or 6 weeks into it, when it got really freaking creepy around here. And, in fact, my own tale of that was I've always had this goatee as long as I can remember, and so has my wife. I didn't realize how much she hated mustaches until I shaved it down. And the first time I shaved it down, got a little too close there because I never worn a mustache, and I kind of looked like Hitler. So that was a bad thing. I was like, ooh, that's not good. So then I grew it out in like kind of a big, like kind of caterpillar kind of thing. And then somebody sent me a picture of, I forget the actor's name, but the principal from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and that was a dead ringer for him.
Ben
so
Stiller.
I was happy that we were done with the Mustache Club.
No. Yeah.
Right, that's
Never mind. Yeah.
monotone.
You knew who I was talking.
Monotone style.
Bueller.
Guys, I'll pull it here real quick. Let me give a quick little insight into how we work as a team.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Pour in here, we're going to do our stand-up in here, I guess, if you will.
You guys.
So what happens is, come on in. Oh, let's say it once.
That's awesome.
Those are not licensed sock puppets, by the way.
I was like, this comes with the pre-order, or?
Yeah, no. So what we have here is we have one of our producer's office. So this is Grant McDaniel, known as Rogue 5 on the board. So when you guys know him from Star Wars Galaxies, and he's been with us for a while. Anyway, so what we do here is we're using, for those of you in software development, an agile approach to software development, which basically boils down to a few simple things. It's have small teams of people that know what they're doing, focused on a specific goal that you can hold them accountable to in a specific period of time, and then let them decide how they're going to get there. I mean, it's real simple. And so fundamental premise is, at the beginning of every sprint, when we were in that mode, we would pick user stories, and those user stories could be, as a developer, I want this tool. As a player, I want this, I want collections in the game or something like that. And then what they would do is they would be resourced accordingly. They would decide on all the tasks. They spend a whole day planning and put all the tasks up here they need to do to get that done. And then every day they would show up here and they would say, okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to do this particular part of it. And I'm going to take it from the task pool. I'm going to put it in progress. I'm going to write my name on it so I own it. And then it's going to tell me how many hours we've estimated towards it. And then I will cross that out as I'm going along every day. And sometimes I'll finish it earlier, which will go into the in testing and then finally into the done pile. Sometimes it'll take longer, in which case we can make an adjustment on that. But again, the point here is it all is about proof through play. So every day, this team, particular Phoenix, will go into our Star Labs area. They'll sit down with a build that's deployed nightly automatically to either the PC or the PS3 of all the changes that were made the day before. They'll play those, and then they'll go, how fun is this? Because the first thing is, remember, part of that premise of play and proof through play is that we all have to be player number one. And what that means is we got to put our player hats on. Whether we thought of this great idea, whether we invested a lot of time or energy into it, if it just gets down to the point where it's not fun as a player, then we take it out, or we make it more fun. And so what they would do is they would go play that, and then they would take that feedback from those things, and they would stand up here every day and have to be like in front of all their peers like this and be like, yeah, I was surfing Facebook, so I need this passed out. Yeah, that doesn't work. So normally they would just be like, hey, I'm moving this thing across the board, and we're good to go. So what's nice is that you're accountable to your peers, you're accountable to the product, and it's even worse than being accountable to somebody like me, which is great, because that means when we have a team as big as we do, at one point we had almost 17 of these teams going on in parallel, and it was, I can't be in every meeting, or neither can anybody else, but what was great is the team owned it and they owned the product. And I think you can really see that reflected in the product as you play it. I'm very proud of what they've done and all the hard work that they have put into it, because they made some great decisions over the years, and we're really excited about where we are. Yeah, and these things right here, so this is the sock puppet team, if you're curious. And what they did was they made a sock of the sprint. So every sprint was about a 3 to 4 week period, and over that particular course of time, this is our animation team. Every person made a different sock puppet, which was kind of cool. So these guys decided to make t-shirts. Also, you'll notice some money tacked on the wall and some IOUs. What happens is there's an atomic clock here. If somebody's late to the stand-up, they have to pay a fine or do something embarrassing. And if the stand-up runs over the 15-minute period, then the scrum master has to pay $5 to the wall. All that money is stored in a lockbox, and then at the end of the sprints, they use it for whatever they decide to use. In some cases, t-shirts, beer, whatever, it goes back to the team. So it's a little way of just keeping everybody, moving forward and having that accountability.
So I was going to ask, this is the Scrum team kind of approach, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, and it evolves. Like, we don't use it like right out of the box. We developed it over the years to adapt to our own needs, and there's strengths and weaknesses to it like anything else. It's a tool, but what we like about it is that it's all about transparency to the product itself.
Pretty flexible too.
Yeah, very flexible, very flexible. And then at the end of every sprint, we actually go back to your point, and we look at it, and we go get a retrospective, which basically gives people a chance to go, I don't like this, or I like to do this, or I want to do this different. And then based on that, they'll change the process, and we'll move forward with the next one.
Now the user stories, are those the ones that have gone into the forums and said this needs work, or?
Yeah, like in this particular case, we're in a different mode right now. So we're doing stand-ups, but I'll show you when we go to Star Labs how they're doing a little more nimble. Like, they're basically writing up priorities on a board, things like that come out of the forum. So what'll happen is, like, Tony or the feedback, you just send /feedback if you go in and do a bug in the game. Those will go back to our QA department or back to Tony. They'll get filtered up through an evaluation, or what we call a triage process, that'll get put in, and then, like, Chris Ko, the game director, or the Scrum leadership, or the product owners is what they're called, will actually go through and decide what's the most important thing for those guys to work on, and then we'll assign the resources accordingly. And so those are evaluated constantly on a regular basis, based on where the product is and what's the next most important thing. All right, continue. We're wrapping up.
For those long nights.
This here is what we call the Citadel of Oa. And this is where, if you're a Green Lantern fan, that's where all the knowledge of the universe is. And so, I'll see people take some pictures. And so this is where basically we get several, like 3 or 4 copies of pretty much everything that DC publishes, and we filter through it, and we put in there what, like what's relevant to our current game, what's relevant to the whole IP, where, sort it all out and catalog it, and then we have stacks of things that people can take and read, and if they want, we don't mind. Otherwise, you have to go through kind of a librarian kind of process to check these materials out. But it was interesting because when we built the studio, we moved over here about 18 months ago. We had a huge closet just packed full of stuff, and it was overflowing. And so actually I had 2 closets full, and I figured, well, we better have a lot of shelves because there's a lot of comic books in here. But between these, stand-up file drawers, which are all full, and these shelves, that obviously I have some room to grow, which is awesome. One thing that we had to do was start locking the stuff up, because we have a reading list, and people were like, hey, just go read the comics, just put them back. We started finding them in the bathroom, which was awesome. Well, that would be your comic. You can keep that one. And make sure that people understood that this isn't their house, even though they spend a lot of time here, and that they need to please read the comics in a public area. So there you go. So there, that's where we keep all that. We have to make sure that we're consistent and core to the canon, which is very, very important. Otherwise, you guys will fall apart.
I'll be all right here.
So we have here is the Watchtower. And why do we call it the Watchtower? Well, because we're watching people from it. Basically, again, part of that whole prove through play is not just us playing the game, it's other people. Now, we have a fully articulated, and we're going to watch Ryan. We have
yes?
What's that?
Is it a one-way or?
It's a one-way mirror, yeah. Well, there's light on the backside, so you can actually see back and forth, but it is a one-way mirror. This is usually dark.
Okay.
And what we'll do is we have a usability lab out in San Diego, and we can actually virtually watch people doing it, which is cool. And they have a lot more cameras and things to watch the keyboards, type what people are typing, and all that kind of stuff. We just have a very simple setup here. What we do is we call it tissue test, which is basically just come in and swipe the thing and see where we're at. So we'll go in, we have a college town in Austin, which we're very fortunate for. We'll put an ad out and we'll say, hey, we need some people who are interested in games, who want to test the game and give us your feedback. Then we'll interview those folks, we'll find out the right, they meet the audience requirements and the age requirements. We will sign them up and we'll give them like a $25 gift card to Best Buy if they show up here. And they get to play the game and just give us their opinions. And it's really fun to watch a designer or an artist or an engineer who's actually been sitting here, deciding how people would play their game and watching how they actually play the game. Because they can't, they're guided like, no, that guy's not supposed to, what's he doing? And so it's great because we can then take a bunch of notes and get some feedback. And we kind of bring them in here on a regular basis. What was kind of fun is we had a group recently that actually visited with us 6 consecutive visits over the course of about 6 weeks. They came in once a week and we got to know them and they got to know us. But they didn't actually meet us except for the people who hosted the test until the very end. And it was a lot of really good feedback about somebody that came back and played, because obviously it's more than just a 2-hour experience. It goes on for a long, long time. So anyway, it's again part of that tenet of proof through play. Not only us playing, but you guys. So anything that, these things have been very influential in shaping the course of the product over the years.